Hi everyone, welcome you all. In this video, I'm going to show you how we can work with the annotations. So Playwright is provided different type of annotations, like we have a test.skip annotation and a test.fail annotation, test.fixme annotation, and then we have test.slow annotation. So these are the different type of annotations which we have to use in the different times. So let us see how can we use these annotations practically. So for that, I'm trying to open my VS Code editor. And in my test folder, I already created one spec file, annotations.spec.js. And first of all, we need to get required stuff from the Playwright test module. I'm just trying to import. Then I'm going to write some of the test. Simple test I'm going to write. I'm not going to write any web script. Simply, I just want to write a simple test. And with that, we will try to understand different type of annotations. Okay. So test is, I can just pass some test one and then async, and we will pass page picture here, and then we will specify arrow function, right? So in this, I'm writing a simple message as a console.log, and this is test one. Okay, simply I have written one test. Now similarly, let us try to write one more test, copy the same thing, and now I'm writing one more test. Let's call it as a test 2, and this is my test 2. Okay, so now currently I have created two tests. So the first annotation which we can use is on only annotation. You can say only. So if I don't specify anything, right, now what happens is by default, all the tests will be executed. So let me save the file and go to the terminal. And once you go to the terminal, let's try to execute the test. So npx playwright test and annotations.spec.js, and Chromium is my browser, and in headed mode I just want to run. Headed mode is optional because I'm not launching any browser and everything, so I can just remove the headed mode. Okay, now I have executed, both the tests are got passed. Test 1 and test 2 got passed. Suppose I have a multiple test like this, I want to execute only one test or specific test, right? So then we can use only. So here I want to execute only test 1, so I can say dot only. So this is the annotation which we can use, only annotation. So then when you run the command again, after saving the file and execute the same test again, so this time it will execute only one test. So my one test is got passed, that is test 1 is got passed. And suppose if you want to run multiple tests with the same annotation, you can also use multiple onlys. I can say only. Now we can say save the file and then execute. Again, both the tests will be executed because we specified only, right? So if you want to execute specific test among multiple tests, you can use only annotation. So this is a one example how to use only annotation. Okay, now I will show you one more type of annotation called skip annotation. Skip. So how to use skip annotation? Skip. So to use this annotation, what we can do, we can use this in multiple ways, without condition or with condition. So first, let us see with condition how we can do this. So I will just comment the first test and let me write one test, test 2. So normally when I execute this, by default, my test will execute and it will pass because I am executing only one test and it got passed. Now I want to skip this test. If you want to skip this test, simply you can write annotation called test.skip. So when you specify the skip, so this will skip the test. It will automatically skip the test. It will not be executed. So you can simply execute the test and see. Okay, now one test is got skipped. So if you don't want to execute the test, right? So at the runtime, you can just make that annotation test.skip. And sometimes we can skip the test based on certain condition. Okay, so in that case, how can we write it? So for example, let me comment this. So I want to execute my test. I want to skip my test based on certain condition. So let me write one more test. Let's say copy the same test. And here I'll call it as a test 3. And now this is my test 3. Now I want to skip this test based on the condition. So in those cases, instead of specifying the skip here, and we will put certain condition. So what condition? For example, let's take along with the page picture. Whenever I run my test, by default, my test will execute on the Chromium browser. Okay, because at the runtime in the command line, I'm passing my project is Chromium. Okay. Or if you want to execute my test to only specific browser, you can go to the Playwright config.js, and here there is an option called here you can see in the project section, you can see Chromium is there, Firefox is there, and WebKit. All of them I have commented. So currently pointing to Chromium. So whichever test is executing, by default it will execute on the Chromium. Or else the other way is we can specify the specific browser name in the command prompt. Okay. Now why I'm saying this is, suppose I want to skip this test based upon certain condition. Okay. So here along with the page fixture, I'm also getting the one more fixture called browser name. So this will give you the browser, on which browser you are executing the test. That information is available in the browser name. So if the browser name is equal to, suppose here I'll put one condition. Let's say if browser name, if the browser name equal to Chromium, okay, equal to Chromium. And then what we need to skip the test. Simply can say test.skip. So this is how we can use skip based on certain condition. Okay, now I will execute my test based on the condition. If my condition is true, if my browser name is Chromium, then I will skip the test. If browser name is something else, then I will execute the test. I don't want to skip the test. Now let me try to execute this. So I'm passing the Chromium. Now it is got skipped. So why it is got skipped? Because I'm passing the Chromium browser. I'm trying to run the test on Chromium browser. So browser name is also equal to Chromium. Both are matching. So my test is got skipped. Okay. Suppose here I'm passing Firefox. I'm passing Firefox. Now I want to run the test on the Chromium. Okay. In my command, I'm providing project is a Chromium. So when I execute this time there is a mismatch. Now you can see my browser name is Chromium and it is also not matching this. If it is not matching, the test will not be skipped. That means my test is got executed and passed. So previously it was skipped. Now it is not skipped. It was passed. Why? Because whatever the browser name I have passed, which is not matching with the condition, that's the reason it is not skipped. When the test will be skipped, if the condition is true, if the browser names are matching, then my test will be skipped. So this is how we can skip the test based on the condition. So here I'm again changing to Chromium. So when I change the Chromium, again my test will automatically skip. So when I execute the test for another time, so my test is got skipped. Test 3 is got skipped. So the skip annotation we can use either directly, we can skip the test by directly specifying here, or based on certain condition, we can skip the test. Here I put the condition. If the condition is true, then skip the test. If the condition is false, then execute the test. So these are the two different ways we can use skip annotation. Okay, now let me comment this also. Now let us discuss one more type of annotation. There is one more annotation called Fixme. Okay, Fixme. And this is almost similar to the skip annotation. But the only difference is in the skip annotation, we have a condition. Based on the condition, we can skip it. And Fixme also will skip the test. But when we will use Skipme is, for example, I have created some test, but it is still not completed. Or the test is having some issues or bugs. And I want to skip the test till I fix that bug or till I fix that automation script. In such cases, we can use Fixme. Okay, almost the same, only slight difference is there between skip and Fixme. So if there is any test which is having some open issue, or if it is having some known issues, we will not execute the test in the runtime, right? In those cases, we can make the test as a Fixme annotation. So simple example, I'll tell you. Let me write another test here. So I can say test, and my test is, I say test. So 3, this one is, okay, this one is, I say 4, my test is 4, and async, and here we specify the page fixture and then arrow function. Okay, so async and bracket, here there is a comma missing. Yeah, so now this is my test which is created, and whatever I have done here, same thing we can do. So whatever we do in the skip, same thing we can do. I can say directly I can say test.fixme. Okay, and whenever use this annotation, you have to use first. After the rest of the test you can write. So test.fixme, and then I will write some console log. I say console.log, and here I'm writing this is test4. This is my test4. Okay. So now what I've done is this will automatically skip the test. Whatever skip is doing here, the same thing is done by the Fixme also. But when we have to use this Fixme is, suppose if your test is having some bugs or you have some unknown issues, and unless you fix that, you can't execute, right? So in that particular case, you can just make test.fixme. So this will automatically skip the test. Now save it and then execute. Okay, now it is got executed. And if I look at here, there is one test which is got skipped. Which one it is? It is not displayed any message. Yeah, it is there. Test4 is got skipped, right? So it is not giving anything because this is the first statement which is got executed. Okay, let me save and execute one more time. Go to save and then clear. Execute the test. Yes. Now you can see there is one test is got automatically skipped. So this is how we can simply use Fixme. Slight difference between skip and Fixme. And with the skip, we can also use condition. Based on the condition, we can skip it. Okay, that is called Fixme. Now let me show you one more type of annotation. Let's comment this. Comment this test, and the next annotation is fail annotation. Most of the times it will be very useful. Next one is a fail annotation. Fail. So how to use this fail annotation? So there are multiple things we have to understood here. Fail annotation. So let me write one test here. I say again, or else let me copy the same test here, whatever I have done initially. Copy the same test. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and fifth one. So let's make it as a test 5. And I'm removing this only option. And just a simple test. And test 5 asynchronous page fixture. And inside this, I'm just printing this is my test 5. So this is a normal test. Okay, this is a normal test. Okay, so now I want to fail the test. So how can we fail the test? Simply, before writing the statement, you can simply say test.fail. So whenever you're using annotation, that should be first. It should come first. After that, a test script should continue. Okay. So this is a test.fail. So as soon as you start your testing, at the beginning itself, I told you test.fail. And after that, I put console.log. Okay. And I will also put some annotation here, sample, not annotation, some assertion. I can say expect, observe this, how I'm writing, expect 1. And the to be 2. Let's say it should be also 1. Let's take 1. So both are equal, right? My assertion will definitely pass. Now, if you observe this, here test.fail. That means what? I'm expecting fail. I'm expecting the test should be failed. So that's what I'm expectation. This is my expectation, test.fail. But what happens here? The assertion will make my test passed, right? So here I'm expecting fail. This is our expectation. And here, this is the actual. This is your actual. But what we are expecting here is fail, but actual is passed. Both are mismatched. So whenever both are mismatched, then what happens? It will pass. Now observe here, I'm running the test. Carefully observe this. Yeah, now my test is failed. So why my test is failed? What my expected is what? Failed, but passed. Assertion is got passed, but my expected is what? Failed. So both are mismatched. So that's the reason the whole my test is got failed. So if I look at here, the output also same thing here. The test is 5, which is got executing. And here, our expectation is failed, but actual is what? Passed. Both are mismatched. So that's the reason my test is got failed. Okay, for example, here I'm expecting fail. I'm expecting fail here. And here assertion is also failed. When I say 2 here, 1 equal to 2 is not equal. So the assertion is also will fail. So my expectation is fail. My expected assertion is also fail. in that particular case, my test will execute and pass. Now I can just execute. Then my test is got passed. So this is a kind of a negative testing. Okay. So we can make the test fail. Here we are expecting, but actually what is happening? My assertion is passed. So there is a mismatch between expected and actual. Whenever you see the mismatch between expected and actual, so this my test will fail. And here I'm expecting fail, and also my assertion will fail here. Both are failed. So expected and actual is same. So my test will obviously passed. So that is a negative testing. Okay. If both expected and actual is failed, then only my test will pass. So that is a condition here. I'm writing simple comment. Whenever the actual, if both expected and actual is failed, then only test will pass. This is a negative type of assertion. Okay. And this fail assertion we can also use along with the condition. So let me try to create one more test. Let's say test number 6. We can also fail the test based on the condition. Let's comment this code. And let's come to this part. So now I have a test 6. And based on the condition, I want to fail my test. So what I will do is here, along with the page, I will also take browser name as a fixture. And before failing the test, I will check the condition. Like if browser name equal to Chromium. Okay, if the browser name is equal to Chromium, and then I will fail my test. Okay, so my browser name is equal to Chromium, and then only fail my test. Then only fail my test. Okay, so I will write the statement here before this. And this is my test number 6. And annotation is not required. I'm just trying to remove this annotation. Okay, now observe. Here what I'm doing is, if my browser name is equal to Chromium, then only fail the test. And then only we are expecting the fail. If the browser name is equal to Chromium, then I'm expecting fail. Okay, observe this. If the browser name is equal to Chromium, then only I'm expecting fail. If the browser name is equal to not equal to Chromium, then I'm not expecting fail. Okay, so just observe this. I'm executing the test. Okay, now it is got failed. Expected to fail, but passed. And why it is failed? Let me just try to understand. We are expecting fail, right? So here browser name equal to Chromium is true or not true, because in the command line we have passed. So if I look at the command line, I have passed Chromium browser. Let me clear this, Control C. If I see the command, I have passed the Chromium browser. So when you pass the Chromium browser, my condition is true. That is passed. But here what I'm expecting? Fail. My condition is passed, but my assertion is, my annotation is failed assertion, failed annotation. Both are mismatched. So here my browser name is Chromium. That is passed. If condition is true, that means it is passed. But here what we are expecting is fail. Both are mismatched. That is the reason the output is saying, expected is fail, but passed. But when it will pass, suppose I'm passing a different browser name. Okay, so instead of Chromium, here I'm passing Firefox. Let us compare with the Firefox. So here I'm passing Chromium, but browser name I'm expecting here is what? Firefox. So definitely this will fail. Condition will fail. And I'm also expecting my test should fail. So here this will mismatch. That means it will fail. And then it will also fail. Both are failed. If both are failed, then my test will pass. So this is a kind of a negative test. Okay, I'll repeat once again. So here we are comparing with the browser. So whatever browser we're passing at the runtime, we are comparing with this. If both are equal, if condition is true, that means passed. But here we are expecting fail. Both are mismatched. That's the reason my test is got failed. Now this time I'm comparing with the Firefox, but we are passing Chromium. We are comparing with the Firefox here. So this will not match. Obviously it will fail. And here also we are expecting fail. Both are failed. So my test will pass. So okay, let me save the file and then execute my test. Now it will pass. Why it will pass? Because we are passing the Chromium browser and that is not equal to browser name. If it is not equal, condition is false. right? If not equal, condition is false. And test also failed. Both are failure status. So here expected is failed, and also here expected is failed and actual is also failed. That is the reason my test is got executed and passed. So this is how we can use fail annotation with the condition, without condition and with the condition. Okay. Now there is a last one more annotation. So far, what are the annotations we discussed? We discussed about skip annotation, fail annotation, and Fixme annotation. The last one is test.slow annotation. This is also one of the most important annotation. Okay, so let me just comment this code also. The next one is slow annotation, the last one. Comment this. Now I'm going to write one more test. Okay, let me just copy this. Okay, so the next type of annotation is what? Slow. And here, sixth test we already created. Let's say this is seventh one. This is a seventh test. Okay. Now, this is simple test I have created. So now what I will do is I will also try to launch some application. Let's say await page.goto. And here I am providing some application because this is related to time. Okay, timeout. So I'm trying to do some kind of operation. So I'm trying to launch my browser. Await page.goto, and this is my page. And okay, fine. So I have written only two statements. I'm just writing simple message, and then I'm launching my browser. So whenever you execute your any test, by default, it will take 30 seconds. Maximum timeout is 30 seconds. Okay, maximum timeout is 30 seconds. So if you just execute this code, test 7 will be executed. So now I'm not executed in the headed mode. So that's the reason it is executed in the headless mode and it is got passed. Now let me try to execute this headed mode, hyphen headed. So when you run this in headed mode, it is launching my browser and everything is went well and closing my browser. Okay. And by default, every test will take 30 seconds. It's a default time. Okay. Suppose sometimes if the test is taking more than that, okay, if the test is taking more than that, again, definitely it will fail. Okay, what I will do is in the configuration file, I will try to reduce the default time. Okay, for example, go back to the Playwright config.js. And if you want to specify the timeout, so there is one option available. And if you just scroll down in the configuration file, Playwright config.js, and here there is an option called here. These are the projects. Yeah, there is a use block, right? So after completion of this, here you can write one sample keyword called timeout. Okay, timeout. So by default, it will be 30 seconds actually. If I look at here, this will show you by default, the timeout is what? 30 seconds. The default timeout is 30 seconds. Means every test by default takes 30 seconds. It will wait up to 30 seconds. If the page is loading or some element is available, for everything, it will wait for 30 seconds for every test. Okay. Suppose I will try to reduce this. Let's make it as a 1 second. Okay, let's 1000 milliseconds is nothing but 1 second. Or let me make it as a 2 seconds. That means maximum timeout I have configured in the 2 seconds. Now let me try to execute the test. If the test is successfully executed or if the page is successfully opened within 2 seconds, then my test will pass because I have configured the timeout is 2000 here. So if my test is executed or if my page is loaded within 2 seconds, then my test is executed and passed. Let me just execute now. Okay, now two seconds are enough. So it is successfully executed and also passed. Now 2 seconds are enough. Now I will make it as a 1 second. Let's see this. I'm making as a 1 second. Within 1 second, page should be loaded and everything should be done. That's my expectation. Now let us run the test one more time. Now you can see my test is got failed. Means what? Within 1 second, the browser, the URL is not able to open on the browser. It needs more time actually. So default time is 30 seconds, but intentionally I'll reduce the time in the configuration file. I make it as a just a 1 second. But within 1 second, the page is not loaded. So that's the reason my test is got passed. So it is saying timeout of 1000 milliseconds are exceeded. So that's the reason my test is got failed. In this particular case, what we can do is we can write test annotation, slow annotation. So before launching this, I can put this after the launching my browser. This statement, I'll keep it here. And the beginning itself, I will write one test annotation, test dot slow, test dot slow. When I use this method, what will happen is this will automatically triple the timeout. So how much timeout we specified here is 1000. So into 3. That means this particular slow method will make that 1000 into 3000. Means 3 seconds it will make. So this slow method will increase the time in the triple. Suppose if you specify 5,000 milliseconds, obviously it will become 15,000 milliseconds. Okay, this method will automatically do that. So now after putting this annotation, let us try to launch my browser and see whether it will work or not. Previously, if I make it 1000, it is not able to load it within 1 second. So it is got failed. Now this time I'm trying to execute one more time. Observe this. Now my test is got passed. After putting this annotation, my test is got passed. How it is passed this time? Because by default, the time is 1000 milliseconds. That means only 1 second. And within 1 second, the page is not able to load. That's the reason my test is got failed. This time, I put this annotation, test dot slow. So this particular annotation will increase the time 3 times. Okay, that means we'll say 1000 milliseconds into 3, 3000 milliseconds it make it. So within 3000 milliseconds, the page is loaded and my test is got passed. So this is how we can use annotation called slow annotation. And there is one more approach also there. If you want to increase the timeout, and here test level. Suppose if you put the timeout here, this is applicable for all the test. Suppose in the test level, specific test level, I want to apply the time. Only this particular test. So here you can write one more command is there. So you can say test.set timeout. And in this, you can specify how much timeout you want. So you can say make it as a 5000 milliseconds. That is more than enough. Okay, so currently we have only 1000 seconds, 1000 milliseconds. This is not enough, right? In that case, especially for this particular test, I'll increase the timeout of 5000 milliseconds. Okay, now execute the test. And within 5 seconds, obviously it will load the page and execution is done. So my test is got passed. So this is another way we can increase the timeout. Okay, the slow is one type of annotation which will triple the timeout. Whatever timeout we have specified in the configuration file, playwright.config. If you don't see this particular option, you have to write this manually after completion of this use block. This is also one of the property which we can say. By default, if I don't specify this, 30 seconds, the default will be there. So you can just put the cursor, it will clearly say. So timeout for each test in milliseconds. Default is 30 seconds. So even though if you don't put this, by default, 30 seconds will be considered. But if you don't want to have 30 seconds, you can reduce the time. If you reduce the time, sometimes some test not sufficient that time. The time is not enough to run the test. In that case, we can use this annotation and that will automatically triple the existing timeout, whatever you specified in the configuration file. And then that particular timeout will be sufficient to run the test. This is one approach, and there is another one, test.set timeout also you can use. So these are the different type of annotations which are provided in the Playwright. So test.skip we understood, test.fail, test.fixme, test.slow. And test.skip and test.fixme almost the same. The only difference is in the test.skip we can put the conditions, and based on the condition we can skip it. In the fixme, we can just specify this annotation if that particular test need to fix something. In that particular test, there is something to be fixed. So till that, we don't execute the test. So in such type of test, we can specify fixme annotation. So these are the 3-4. Apart from this 4 annotation, we also discuss one more additional annotation, that is only. That means only particular test will be executed. Okay. Test.skip, test.fail, test.fixme, test.slow. So these are the 4 types of annotations provided by the Playwrights, which are very, very important and very useful while writing the automation test cases. All right. So that's all for this video. In the next video, we'll discuss another topic. Thanks for watching.